And with me today, I have the amazing Cathy Williams, who is a Melbourne-based award-winning author and a trailblazer in body-based healing and creative arts therapy. Her work centers on guiding women back into their bodies as a source of wisdom, safety, and intuitive power. After surviving a psychologically abusive relationship and a system that failed to protect her, Cathy became profoundly disconnected from herself. She describes feeling fractured, numb, and unable to trust her own inner compass. It was through somatic practices and creative expressive therapies that she rebuilt her discernment, reclaimed her voice, and re-established a deep, trusting relationship with her body. So, from this restored place of strength, Cathy created Intuitive Self, where she now offers transformative spaces, workshops, and resources that help women reconnect to their embodied knowing. Her approach blends nervous system regulation, intuitive awareness, and creative expression to help women feel safe in their bodies again and remember their inherent power. Cathy's mission is simple and radical. When a woman comes home to her body, she comes home to herself. I absolutely adore that, Cathy. Welcome to the show. So great to have you here.
Oh, thanks, Anu. It's really nice to be here and be in conversation with you.
Beautiful. So, Kathy, it would be really amazing for you to actually talk more about your journey. And you do speak openly about becoming disconnected from your body after the psychological abuse. So, what did the disconnection feel like on a day-to-day level?
Mm. I guess when I was in this relationship, I didn't have words to describe what I was experiencing. But what I had at my disposal was the sensations and the feelings that I could sense in my body.
Mm,
So there was always this hum of anxiety. And
mm,
that showed up in me not being able to eat, not having an appetite. It showed up in a loop of really doubting myself and questioning myself. And I found myself looking towards him
mm,
for answers and to make decisions. And I can see in hindsight the different ways that this was constructed and the different, web that I was within. But at the time, this I had this really strong sense of underlying anxiety, tension in my belly, like tingles on the back of my neck, little signals that I could only understand in hindsight were my body's way of telling me that I didn't feel safe, I didn't feel comfortable, and my intuition was signaling me through my body sensations. But what I had been doing, and I recognize this now as a way that I survived, as a way that I just got on and tried to function and keep showing up to work and to all the other demands that I had in life. But the ways in which my body would signal to me and show up in sensation and feeling, I learnt how to numb myself too. I kept myself really busy. I distracted myself from those sensations and from feeling anything that was remotely uncomfortable or hinted at me being something being off. So I kept myself busy. I distracted myself and I overrode the feeling and the sensation with my mind. So I convinced myself that I was making a big deal out of nothing, that I shouldn't cause a fight, that, oh no, give him the benefit of the doubt. I really did well to convince myself not to listen to those body signals. And it was only in really coming towards the end of the relationship where I couldn't take it anymore, really. There were so many other parts that came forth, other displays and treatments and behaviors where I didn't feel love, where I felt like I was begging for mercy within this dynamic. that I realized that, oh, I've got a choice here. And as difficult as it was, and it was challenging to find the courage and the resources and the capacity to leave that relationship. When I did, it was through therapy that I started to see and recognize all of the ways in which I had ignored those body signals and had, in my own way, abandoned and betrayed my intuition
Mm.
in that relationship.
Okay, yeah, thank you for sharing that. And so we always speak about how a lot of who we attract as adults is all ingrained in us from obviously the early years through any traumatic experiences that may have happened whilst we were children, if there was abandonment or neglect or abuse. And so that then kind of shapes who we're drawn to in the future. Was that the case with yourself also?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, I had a therapist once say to me when I was, when I spent many years educating myself on psychological abuse, on narcissism, on the different power and control wheels, and really learning how much of a casebook
Mm,
study that I had become in that relationship. But I remember in one therapy session, my therapist at the time said, "But why, why is it that you went into the belly of the beast?
mm,
What was it about that dynamic, about those first initial few dates and that first contact?"
mm,
And yeah, what I've come to see and come to know is that characteristic and that behavior and that version of love, or um, what was a wolf in sheep clothing dressed as love,
mm,
that was very familiar to me because that is what I had seen displayed in my parents' dynamic and
mm,
what I had come to know or seek out after my dad left.
Interesting, yes. And so, what was the moment or series of moments that actually sparked your whole healing journey?
Recognizing the ways in which I'd abandoned and betrayed my intuition was a
Mm,
really big one. And so, thankfully, I had already been exposed to movement as therapy and creative arts therapy practices.
mm,
And through being a student of this work, I was able to dedicate myself to courses and find mentors in that space where these modalities of being with self, being with all of the rising emotions, were actually given space to be felt and heard and expressed. And I so appreciated that because it wasn't about me finding words to describe the story or go back into what I had experienced, which a lot of my therapy up until that point had been. But this really complemented what I'd already uncovered in that story and in that experience,
mm,
in actually giving expression to the ways in which my body had stored the trauma of those experiences.
mm,
So I was able to release them. And of course, this was over many years, but the catalyst was actually having a safe space in which I could recognize the need and necessity to express what I had suppressed for so long.
yeah, thank you. And so, how did somatic and creative arts therapy actually help you rebuild trust within yourself?
I love that, the rebuilding it within myself. Because for so long I had learnt different coping mechanisms to numb myself and to distract myself from my body. Being in this framework of somatic therapy where we really presence the body, where we really bring that somatic lens and we're constantly tracking with, okay, how do we feel in our body right now? Where is that story showing up in the body? What does our body want to express right here in this moment? And so it brought this curiosity into, oh, what what is within my body and how does my body feel? And I started to get curious for the first time and actually enhance my awareness and my capacity to listen to what was happening and to become aware of our sensations. For so long, I had been in my mind, I'd just been treating my body as like a bit of a vessel just to get from A to B and then sleep.
Mm,
Whereas here, I was actually really encouraged to take a pause and to be with my body and
mm,
tune in with how is my body feeling and is there anything that my body needs now and can I give myself permission to meet that need
mm.
within my body?
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you. And so you say that, the body actually holds innate wisdom. What does that wisdom look or feel like in practice?
That's so beautiful. So yeah, it's one of my biggest, I guess, through lines with my work that I know that the body holds wisdom, it holds story, it holds our experience, and it also holds our capacity to overcome challenges and to gain insights about how we experience something.
Yeah.
So what this looks like and feels like is probably going to be very different from person to person.
Mm,
But what I have seen for myself and what I now guide women through is how we can learn the language of our body.
yeah. Hmm.
So, in that way, we are becoming more attuned to the different signals of our body, and then we get to make meaning of that
Yeah.
and use the body to actually regulate itself, to release suppressed emotion, and to come to a deeper understanding of those messages and insights.
Mm,
So, for example, I could be working with someone and they've got a particular they're going through a particular challenge. So we really work with, okay, how is that showing up through the body? Is there tension in the body? Maybe there is a part of the body that's really highlighted and like is the loudest in
mm,
that moment.
yeah.
We explore that, we dive into that part of the body, we give it expression through the movement, and then maybe that then turns into expressing onto the page with colors, lines, and shapes.
Mm,
And it's through that process of releasing and then through a debriefing process where we talk about what their experience was, talk about how they're feeling now, and talk about what they're seeing on the page, what came out onto the page, that we're able to gain that wisdom and that insight. So
mm,
it's really fascinating. People have these drawings and they're able to then gain clarity on that situation or see from a different perspective. Maybe they come out with an answer for an action that they want to take.
mm,
Maybe they come out with an affirmation of how they're going to move through the world from now on.
mhm.
What I love is that it's different every time. We can go deep with it, we can play with it and go light. It really is just being willing and open and ready to receive what the body wants to share in that moment.
Oh, beautiful. Love that. Thank you. And so what would you say is the difference between intuition and fear trauma responses? And how could my listeners actually tell them apart?
Oof, I love this. And it's such a common question, actually. I was running a workshop the other week and I had a woman, stop us almost mid-process and was like, but how do I tell what's fear and what
Yeah.
is my intuition?
Wow.
And
Interesting.
it's such an interesting question. And it's a really hard one to answer because again, it's going to feel different from person to person.
Mm,
So that tension, that pull, twisty feeling that I feel in my stomach, for example, that's my indicator that I'm uncomfortable, that I'm probably getting a really strong no in a situation. And I've had to really practice over time this dialogue with my intuition so I can tell what is my intuition and what's my inner voice, so to speak, and what is coming from a place of fear or a place of scarcity or of a place of self-doubt.
mm,
Because what I want to say to your listeners is it's not about ignoring any of these voices. It's about really being present to what is rising, learning not to react,
Mm,
learning different ways that we can be really compassionate with all of those parts of ourselves that are wanting to be heard, like the fear, like the doubt, but actually being able to come to a place where we have some space and some capacity to really be like, okay, is this coming from a fear place or is this coming from an inner knowing?
mm,
And maybe that inner knowing doesn't make logical sense, or it might not necessarily be convenient for other people if we were to go down that way, but it's what feels right for us in that moment.
mm. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. And so, obviously, based on the work that you do, how does creative expression actually help the nervous system process trauma in ways that talking therapy necessarily can't?
Yeah.
Mm,
I feel like, talk therapy definitely has its place, and I've utilized it for many years in many different seasons. But
okay.
what I have found that movement and expressive art therapy can do to bolster that talk therapy or to complement it
Mm,
is it feels like it's a non-intrusive way of being with an experience or being with an emotion.
yeah. Okay.
So whether that is being present with our body and our experience as we're talking about it, and then learning to express it in a different way on the page or in words, it's not as intimidating as needing to be in the mind of making meaning of it straight away. I feel like what often happens, and what was my experience, is that we will feel an emotion
Yeah.
and we will bypass the feeling of it and go straight to the logical mind of wanting to problem solve
Okay.
and overanalyze.
Mm,
And that can be a coping mechanism. That can be something that we're used to, particularly in this Western society where it's very, we're very in our logical problem solving brains.
mm,
But what creative arts therapy and somatic movement therapy allows is that we're being present to our rising emotions and we're learning ways to stay present with it, to
mm,
stay with our breath, to stay regulated, so that if we have moments when we are triggered or moments when that emotion rises again, we're able to feel like we can handle that.
mm,
And we're also getting curious about it. So it is given space to be expressed. And when we express something, and that could be really subtle, just impulse moving, shaking it from our body. It could be ripping up paper, it could be stomping our feet, whatever it looks like in that time. We're not judging that expression. We're just giving it a platform to be expressed.
yeah.
And what that allows is, one of the philosophies with this work is that when we change our movement, we're changing our psyche. We're actually able to transform our experience of that emotion
Mm,
through the expression of it.
mm,
And what I love about this work as well is that we are trauma informed in that every process is at the client's pace,
yeah.
and it is very much we hold the container, they bring the content, but it's all invitational. So they choose how deep they go with a process or how light they stay.
Mm,
They choose, when we pause, when we stop. Um, but there is something in actually being with it,
mm,
even gently, and giving it a space to finally be heard. And it's my knowing now that when we actually get curious about all of these different parts of ourselves and give them space,
mm,
they don't become so big and intimidating.
yeah.
It's like when you finally put a light on something, it's like, oh, that was just, it was a really loud noise, but it was just a little mosquito.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Oh, thank you so much for describing that. So, for somebody who may be constantly in their head or in high achieving mode, how can they actually learn to partner with their body instead of actually overriding it?
Mm.
Mm,
The first place for me is to really presence the body.
Mm.
So I think we have, and this work can seem really intimidating or overwhelming, and we might feel as if we have to have copious amounts of hours or go away for a week-long retreat,
Yeah.
which of course that would be nice, but we don't always have the luxury or the accessibility or the access to that.
Mm.
And so in my work, I really advocate for us to learn different ways where we are peppering in that body connection and that body awareness
Mhm.
into our everyday life, into our already existing routine.
Mm.
So, for example, when we're in the shower, when we are washing ourselves, just to bring some more intention to that.
Mm.
Maybe in those morning showers as we are you know, soaping up and touching our skin, we are saying hello to all of the different body parts. We're doing a little gratitude for all of the ways in which our body serves us, and we're acknowledging our body in a new way.
Mm.
Maybe it is just having a pause throughout your day just to check in. Oh, am I comfortable in this position? How does my body feel? What do I need right now? It's finding ways to bring in some movement, bring in some of your own practices. And it can be really challenging to think of, what are some ways that we can be with self and be with the body. And on my website and in my book, Body Wisdom, I wrote that for the people that you're talking about, where we are at a bit of a loss and
Mm.
we're able to have some invitations as some entry points into, oh, how can I be with myself differently? How can I be with my body more intentionally? And how can I meet different parts of myself with that curiosity and that creativity and that compassion?
Beautiful, thank you. And so, do you know if there's any like misconceptions that people may have about somatic therapy or body-based healing?
There's quite a few, yes. Um, I guess one of the biggest misconceptions that I get from people, and it might be, their own insecurity or their own doubt about
Mm.
starting or trying out, is that it's a dance, that
Mm.
it's a performance, that I'll get people say, "Oh no, I'm not a dancer, I'm not an artist, that's not for me." And it's such a heavy misconception because it's not about skill, it's not about looking a certain way. It's simply knowing that we are in a body. Our relationship with self is the longest standing relationship we're going to have. And it's about finally giving space and expression to how the body wants to move. Yes, there is movement, but it's not choreographed. It is all how the body wants to move. So it's quite intuitive. Maybe there's some light guidance from myself or other practitioners who use this modality, but it is not directive at all, and
Mm.
it's not interpretive. And it's not about being an artist and creating this amazing piece of work on a canvas, though I will say that many people are so astonished about what comes out through the
Yeah.
process. And a lot of their drawings or their paintings become pieces in their house, on their walls, because they make meaning of them. They are coming to be, particular symbols that maybe that's their strength symbol. And when they look at that image, they're reminded of a particular feeling, and
Mm.
that gives them hope and strength. Um, but yeah, they definitely don't have to start out with any prior experience or any skill in a particular area. And it's definitely not about looking or performing.
Yeah, amazing. Thanks. And so, because I know with obviously somatic healing, you come home to your body, which I absolutely love what what you say about that. And it's difficult for obviously trauma survivors and anybody who may feel dissociated from their body. And so I know that, a lot of your work is about helping these kind of women do that. So, are there any other techniques that you recommend? I know that you have mentioned a few grounding techniques, but is there anything that they can start doing right now?
Yeah. Um, so one thing that I really encourage people to do is do a bit of a body map. So it's where you're really just checking in with your body. Maybe you can bring in some touch. You're going over your whole body from crown down to your feet, and you're
Mm,
bringing in supportive touch. So that's self-touch, and that could look different each day. So some days we might wake up and we want to do big brush strokes to really sort of wake up our body.
mm,
Maybe we're releasing the night before. We're coming into a fresh start for our day.
mm,
Maybe it is gentle massage or caressing, for example. And what this does is it encourages people to take that moment to be with the self, to
lovely.
check in what does the body need, to bring in self-touch. So that's something that they can do right here and now.
Mm,
But then also do a body map. So through that check-in, I encourage people to draw a little like gingerbread person shape on a piece of paper or in a journal and just start to track just so either some colors, lines, and shapes or some keywords about how they're feeling on that day. And again, we're bringing this awareness, we're bringing this intention to being in relationship with the body. And I really love and appreciate what you said, Anu, because when we have had, when our body has responded to particular events and stored trauma and stored tension in the body, when we have had things happen to us, when we have been violated, we don't feel safe in the body. We don't feel safe to be in our body. We dissociate, we disconnect, we learn ways where we actively go against the body. And it is, with support and with intention, these ways of gently coming back to the self to regulate our breathing and to regulate that touch with what feels comfortable. These are some really simple entry points of how we can start that relationship again.
That's great, thank you. And so what would you say are the kind of common themes that you are noticing amongst the women who are requiring this work today?
Mm. I guess some of the common ones are definitely being in an over analytical state of being, where we are giving preference to our overthinking mind rather than our feeling body.
Okay.
There's lots of women who are noticing that they're quite stressed or highly strung, and they really are challenged with slowing down.
Mm,
And even slowing down to breathe and take a moment. The other one, I guess, that comes up a lot is body image and not having a very strong sense of feeling love and compassion towards their body.
mm,
So with these three themes, they're very different, but at the core of it is that connection to self and
mm,
that relationship with the body. So bringing in ways of opening up that dialogue with the body, finding out more ways to be compassionate with the self through movement and through different creative practices is what I really encourage these women to start doing.
lovely. And what do you wish more women understood about healing after psychological abuse or coercive control?
Oh, so many things. I guess those intuitive impulses and those intuitive hints that you got of like, oh, this doesn't feel right, and oh, I don't know about that.
Mm,
They were real.
mm,
And to remember that and to remember that truth within yourself, because I know the experience of dismissing that voice and listening to someone else's voice over my own inner knowing. But those intuitive impulses that you receive, whether in relationship or in hindsight, they are real.
mm. Okay, thank you. And so let's talk about the amazing work that you're doing, the intuitive self. And so tell us more about that.
So intuitive self, yeah, it was formed originally from my work that I do or had done in community development for many, many years, for over a decade. And when I started learning somatic movement therapy and creative arts therapy, I was like, oh, this is a perfect
Mhm.
resource for people to connect with themselves, to connect with each other. And I started doing this with young people. And as I guess I grew and evolved and developed as a woman and as a mother and as a survivor, I started to recognize all of the ways in which these therapeutic approaches were supportive for women.
Yeah.
So, what I now do is I offer public workshop spaces online and in person where we come together and we do these practices and we experience and experiment with movement and art therapy. And they can often be under different themes, um, and everyone can journey with that in their own way, depending on whatever they're moving through in life.
Mm.
I work with women one-on-one in containers, and I also work with other practitioners, so professionals in the space that are wanting to bring this work into their own client spaces.
Mm.
I have a book out, Body Wisdom, and that has gone far and wide as, that beautiful entry point where people can start to cultivate creative self-discovery in their life.
Beautiful.
Um, I'm really grateful that it's been recognized with two different literary awards in
Mm.
the health and well-being space. And yeah, my work is really creating more resources like the book, more spaces like the workshops, and more experiences where I can support women with their relationship with their body and intuition.
Oh, that's great. And you do a lot of your work online?
Yes, yeah. So ever since COVID, there's been a big need and
Mm.
um yeah, it's been more accessible to do things online and to reach people online. And people often feel more comfortable doing this work from the comfort of their own home.
Mm.
So it's been great to meet clients all over the world now.
Wow, I love that. And so where can my listeners find you?
I know they can find me at intuitiveself.com.au. That's my website. It's got all my resources there. They can book in for a free 1 hour discovery session. And if anything I've said today has resonated, I really encourage people to get in touch and see how this work could support you.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. Wow, it's been such a pleasure having you on and for sharing such wisdom and knowledge and great expertise on my show. Thank you so much, Cathy.
Oh, thank you for having me. Thanks for the questions.
Amazing. So, my listeners, I hope you enjoyed the show, and please do reach out to Cathy if you have any questions about any of the work that she's doing. She would be honored to hear from you. And again, thank you so much for joining us today, Cathy. And I look forward to seeing everyone in the next show. Stay blessed, my friends.